Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics Round 15 Q&A. We're recording live on Tuesday night, the 17th of June, leading up to the second to last bye round and best 18 week for the 2025 season. So looking forward to that, but we have to start on a somber note, unfortunately, because my boy is out. Sam Taylor is out for up to 6 weeks with a broken toe. Speedy recovery to the great man. If people
is out with a broken heart.
Yeah. And if you aren't tuning in live, this is why you need to, because people tuning in live right now get to see Sam Taylor's head right next to mine. So he's made an appearance, and he's made a couple of appearances this year. But unfortunately, he is out for 6 weeks. But anyway, I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials, getting very upset that Sam Taylor is out for the next 6 weeks. But joining me is a couple of my fellow co-hosts in AFL Fantasy Fanatics, and we'll start off with a man that wasn't able to join us on Sunday night, and that is good old Jordox. Jordox, mate, how are you? How was the weekend?
Good, mate. Good to see you. Weekend was good. Fantasy was pretty average again, but just keep on keeping on, as they say.
I feel your pain, mate. I feel your pain. And joining us once again is another one of our fellow co-hosts. It is Jordy DeSeno. Jordy, mate, how are you?
Good, mate. Going pretty well. Did that gig, as we said, Sunday night, late one, and I even called you after it as well. We chatted more trades after midnight, so we're in the mode because it wasn't lockout, and then I had to go to the gig, so I had to give Bales a call. But going well. Still not sure what trades I'm going to do, but that's what we're here for.
Yeah, it does seem like a little bit of a trickier week for trades, and I don't think we've got many sort of set in stone, so it should make for some good conversation. But Jordox, we'll go to you because obviously we got the recap from my week and Jordy's week on Sunday night. But we did get to catch up with how you went, and unfortunately, I think it was another tough week for you. What did you score? What's your round rank, overall rank?
Yeah, so I scored 1930, and overall ranking jumped again. So it's 11,866. I feel like I'm playing the game okay at the moment, but I don't know. It's just not happening. But plus 3, -3. You want me to do that now?
Yep. Go ahead.
Yep. I reckon plus 3 would have to be Andy Brayshaw. That was awesome. That was really good. 136, just what the doctor ordered. Made him captain in my draft side, so I was particularly happy with him. And -3, well, you know what? I'm actually going to do it. I'm actually going to give it to Sam Berry because
when you said Sam, I thought you were going to say Sam Walsh because he's been a thorn in your side.
Sam Walsh plus 3. Thank you, sir, because now you're gone. No, that's a bit harsh. Berry, because Guesty dropped him, and I told Timmy that he'd be very sorry come Friday night. But no, he was very glad that he got rid of him. He's got the role. He's not scoring. So yeah,
he wasn't very good. So a lot of Barry puns right there from each one.
I still love him, but he's not getting it done in fantasy. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, it is unfortunate there. We do have Liam jumping on with us, obviously a good friend of the show from Free Kick, so he'll be jumping on very shortly on the way back from footy training, I'm assuming, as he always is on a Tuesday night. So good to have him jumping on very, very soon. But I thought I'd also say this as well. So currently the AFL Fantasy Fanatics YouTube channel is currently on 3,952 subscribers. We have officially entered into the final sub 50 before we get to the 4K mark. So if you are watching now, you're watching the replay, you're listening on the podcast, whatever you're doing, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel and you can help us reach that goal of 4,000 subscribers, we're only 48 away. Please go and hit the subscribe button. We've got content daily on the channel. So if you want to keep hearing how shit my year's going and all the other good content on here, then head over to our channel and subscribe. We are very, very close to 4,000. That was a big goal we set at the start of the year, and we're getting very, very close. But boys, we are into the fourth and second to last bye week, and I think there's some big questions, and I think that we're going to chat about one discussion point when Liam jumps on, so I'm interested to get his thoughts. But Jordox, it's a tough week for trades this week in terms of like people looking at some targets that have got buys coming. Like I love Caldwell's a target, but he's got a buy, so can't jump on him. Johnson, great rookie. He's got a buy count, but I still think he's a guy that you need to get in. What are you looking at doing with your trades? Well, obviously, we'll go through our own trades and what you're going to be doing, but sort of what is your thinking about your strategy in terms of what you're looking to do with your trades this week? You're trying to get if you're heavy in round 16, try and fix that this week. You're trying to get a couple of these rookies and then cash up for next week. What are you doing? What are you planning on strategy with your trades?
Well, loose plans at the moment involve getting Callum Mills in the back line. So, yeah, it's probably just revolving around that. And at the moment, I'm looking at a way to do it with a dead rookie, which would be really good to get him up to Mills. So, yeah, Berry down and then something else, and then Lewis Hayes up to Mills. But, yeah, look, it's a tricky week, but I don't know. I don't know if it shouldn't be tricky because we've only got, we've got 3 weeks worth of teams not having a bye now. Let's introduce Liam. You can see the two of you giggling his name.
We are just laughing. Anyone that's tuning in on the video, a good friend Liam from Free Kick has jumped on, and it says Free Kick Liam, and then in brackets Sam Taylor, RIP. But Liam, mate, how are you?
Oh, I'm delightful, Bales. Actually, no, sorry, I'm in memoriam. Sad, somber day for the Fanatics universe. Sam Taylor injured. Oh, he's got the photo. You need to get Louis to make you a new one with a frowny face on it.
Oh, yeah, mate. But mate, how are you? Looked on the Twitter sphere before seeing you weekend recap. Looked like you had a pretty good week.
Yeah, look, I finally did. The choice to the forced hand that was JHF still being in my team finally repaid in spades, and I've got most of the good defenders. Nazaya, I've got Holmes. So yeah, I was definitely also saved by a best 18 week. Like I had Bont score falling off, I had Levi score falling off, and then Angus Clark falling off. So yeah, it was a pretty solid week. I'd like more of the same this week. I've only got 2 kind of actual players on bye with Dawson and Rankine. So yeah, look, I'm really hopeful that after I dropped so many ranks in the first 2 weeks of buys, I might actually be on the up and up now.
Yeah, no, good to hear, mate. What'd you end up scoring in the end, and what's your overall rank looking like now?
So I scored a 2141. I'm up to 1,393. So up basically 800 ranks from last week. But I'm still not back to where I was when I went into the buys, when I was at about 1,100. So I've basically, outside of the first week of the season, when I was at just a hair over 10K, I think it was like 10,090, I have basically been between rank 1,000 and rank 2,500 every week of the season. I've just been fenced in, not allowed to go above or below.
Yeah, I've been fenced in between 15,000 and 20,000 most weeks. So I know what you're feeling like in terms of being fenced in, but just a good 24,000 ranks worse than that. We do have a couple of super chats flying through here as well. But just before we do that, I just want to get quick +3, -3 from Liam for his team on the weekend.
Oh, Zach Johnson +3. Kid's good. Kid's real good. I'm glad I trusted my gut early on that one. He's someone that I was very keen to get as soon as I knew he was debuting, having watched a bit of his work in the VFL. I just knew this kid had a bit of a Matt Roberts about the way that he plays and the way the Bombers were looking to use him. So I was very keen to get him in straight away. And that 100 was a pretty spectacular effort to cover for Bond's 50.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he was fantastic. And I gave
-3 covered. Bond tagged, injured. It's a factor that we could have seen coming and one that we definitely couldn't have seen. So I can't blame him and Ross persisted with a tag in spite of the fact that they were getting absolutely housed. And Ed Richards was playing like the best player in the comp, and Bailey Dale had, 35 and 7,000 metres gained, but still Bont's the player that needs to be tagged the entire time. So Bont and Bevo made the correct choice to go, well, we'll go sit at full forward. Windy's not going to defend him very well, and he's not going to have impact otherwise, and we're going to win the game by 80 points or whatever it was. So it's a frustrating one, but it makes sense from a football perspective, so I can't be, too angry. It's just a fact of life, unfortunately.
Yeah. The one thing I didn't actually mention, Jordy, I forgot to mention on the pod on Sunday night, but I did the watch long for that the game after Bont, and I was that angry. And most people go, oh, the Telstra one with the whistling and stuff when it comes on after your players are done crap, comes on at 3/4 time and people get pissed off. I don't think a worse ad, Bont World ad came on while I was doing the watch long, and I'm just like, get this off my screen. Don't want to see Bont World at the moment. I don't want to have anything to do with Bont now. But hopefully he can respond more this week. We've got a couple of super chats here as well. First one from Kobe Pemba. Thank you, mate. So this is the one. This is the big talking point. Is Gawn to Grundy a go second highest in the last 3 weeks? So Liam, I'll go to you because I was saving this for when you jump. I can't remember if you own Gawn or not, but this is a lot of people have got Gawn. This is something that they're considering this week. Going to a Marshall, going to a Grundy, Tim English, one of these rucks. What are your thoughts on the trade out of Gawn for the second highest averaging player of the season to date?
Yeah, look, sadly I've not had Gawn. This is about the only good week to have not owned him. I think the thing with Grundy is, he's had a great last month, been a really high scorer. I've got him in Survivor, which has been delightful. I've been able to get my little bit of Brodie Grundy action, but I do worry that his market share of point scoring will be impacted by the return of Goulden, a more effective forward line with Tom Papley returning, and then also, a match fit and firing Callum Mills. I think those confluence of factors mean, he might have some good ruck matchups, but I worry that his points market share around the ground, which we kind of saw last year, he was a high 90s player with a healthy Sydney team. I don't know if I think he's back to that with a fully healthy midfield unit and a more effective forward line, fewer stoppages in the middle of the ground, a little bit of a cleaner ball movement from Sydney. I'm just not sure that he's the player that I would go after. I think the one that kind of has shown the scoring pedigree is Royal Marshall. He's playing essentially as an audition for every other club in the competition, with seemingly more and more likely that TDK will leave. He's got the scoring pedigree as first and second highest scorer in the last few weeks of the year. That's personally where I'd be looking if you've got Gawn and you think it frees up enough cash for you to do, hopefully, 2 upgrades.
Yeah. So if it's the right player, you'd tick off dropping Gawn this week.
Yes,
for the right player.
I think for the right player, but I think that the right player is Rowan Marshall. English is a fascinating one. Had a big score last week.
And had a few good scores, actually.
Had a few good scores, but we did notice that it was some of his games with Sam Darcy playing more ruck time last year that did impact his scoring. Now, I must admit that I have not investigated English's scoring nearly as much as I have Marshall, if only because I already had Tristan Sherry and I had TDK for most of the year. So I kind of ruled English out as an option for quite a while because that was another round 12 ruck. I certainly feel like he's more confident now moving the ball. I wonder if last year he was impacted by those contract negotiations. But again, I can't definitively state he's a good enough downgrade / premium sideways trade this week as definitively as I can for Royal Marshall.
Yeah. Well, Jordox, where do you sit with because I think I want to get your thoughts as well. What are your thoughts on the Grundy trade out? Because it's very rare that we sort of get to this point where someone's such a high price and been going along so well. But I don't know if you've seen his 3 matchups post-buy. He goes Jared Witts, Riley O'Brien, Tristan Cherry, who are the number 1, number 2, and number 4 hardest ruck matchups going around. Does that factor in a little bit there? And I guess, what do you think about trading Gawn? He's been dominating so far this year.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be a factor, the matchups. And, we're at the point of this season now where if you're making a move like that, you're probably gunning for a pretty good prize, whether it's the car, whether it's a hat, whether it's top 1,000, top 5,000, whatever you're chasing. It's a very aggressive move. My first instinct is don't get rid of Gawn. But geez, if you could work out what it does in terms of points this week, and then whoever you're getting, work out what you think the difference would be between the two for the run home. But I don't know. It's not for the lighthearted trading out someone like Gawn.
Yeah. Jordy, we chatted about this a little bit on Sunday night. What are your have you had many more thoughts since we last spoke?
Yeah, I think I can't trade Gawn. I'm going to hold him. I think, I was there on Sunday watching him at Adelaide Oval, and he looks unreal. And he played on from a mark, and he's moving really well. I was listening to.
Saw that, yeah.
Did you see him play on? Yeah.
Yeah. It was sweet. Of his team fell over, and he just grabbed it and ran. I was like, it's fantastic.
He looks amazing, and I think I've been talking to Liam a little bit about team value, and Liam's team value is through the roof at the moment. So well done, Liam. But I've got Cleary and Warner on the bench, so I can still get an upgrade this week without having to trade Gawn. I think if you're strapped and your bench isn't that great, maybe you might have to do it to just get the upgrade. But I can do it without it, and I've still got 20 players this week. So if I trade him, I'm just is it going to really? It's really a cash play, and I guess you are getting 1 premium, but I do have 20 this week. So, and he just looks so good. It could become a unique. If everyone's going to do it, then I might have a unique. So I think I'm leaning towards holding him.
A question for you. The fact that Port Adelaide committed to playing 2 rucks, and with the fact that Melbourne have had some feistier performances recently, do we think that speaks to a trend of more game planning specifically to limit the impact of Gawn? So I think we saw kind of Vicentini was the main ruck. I think he tired throughout the game. That first half, Max was quelled to some degree by the game planning that was going on by Port Adelaide. And I don't have an answer for this. He's got harder matchups coming up, but he's been able to show a really good floor, even some of the more difficult matchups. But I think now with Melbourne presenting a bit more of a challenge, you might see some more effort going into game planning specifically to limit Max's impact.
Yeah, it's a good shout. I remember Port did it actually a number of years ago. Actually, they sort of got into Gawn a lot more around the ball. So yeah, maybe we see teams doing that a little bit more. I'm probably like Jordan. I'm probably slightly in the camp of holding, because once he gets past those 3 tough games, he goes from his TDK, which is I think it was orange on the scale, but then goes St Kilda, West Coast, Bulldogs, Hawthorn, Collingwood to finish, and I feel like that's a pretty nice run. So I'm probably holding, but again, as Jordy said, if you don't have the money to make the upgrade elsewhere and you need that cash, I think there is a world where you can trade, but I think I'm probably leaning towards holding, but it's a good topic.
The other thing with some of these rucks is, I know Marshall's the obvious one. Saints have come out and said they're going to start playing the kids. We saw Keeler go to have a couple ruck contests in the final quarter. I do agree with Liam that Marshall does, if he is going to get a trade, he wants to obviously show his best if TDK does go there. But are we going to see Saints play some more kids now? Like, I'm pretty sure Taru, Filippo, Wilson are coming back in. Boxall's going to come in. Do they just play, say, give Keeler a bit more time and rest Marshall a bit? I don't know. Just something that I thought about.
I think Keeler plays more prominently, but I don't think his best minutes are in the ruck. They're as a mark. Like, I think he has potential to be, a 6 out of 10 intercepting defender or kind of ruck forward. I think he's shown a really nice pair of hands.
The suggestion's
know
probably
if
more
you-
about Boyd, right? Not so much Keeler, but they might
Boyd's
bring
20
Boyd in.
Boyd's 26 and on a 1-year deal as an SSP.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And then the other option is Max Heath, who, is a bit of a yeti at this point, large man, rumoured but unsighted, forever mentioned in their VFL reports. But, that's a possibility, but I just don't think that. I think Ross has shown himself to be someone who hates the dual ruck setup, like dual dedicated ruck setup. And okay, yeah, we might see some extra minutes in the ruck for non-Marshall players, but he had some minutes late in that game against the Western Bulldogs playing as a forward, and I still think he had a 30-point last quarter, which is enough, right? Like I hear the concern, but I wouldn't overvalue it. I think that Ross has shown himself to be someone who doesn't fiddle with the ruck line like at all, really, and really hates the dual ruck option.
Yeah, no, something definitely to consider moving forward. But good discussion, lads, on the rucks. Tim Ashworth's got a super chat here. Thank you, mate. Saying, what midfielder out of Sarong and Butters, and should I go Gawn to Marshall, Brock to Rouston? So we'll answer that one. So Jordy, Sarong or Butters? The Sarong obviously went up a lot of money on the weekend, 61K, I think, to be exact, and is now closer to $1 million than the 900K, which really was last week. And then Butters, 97, had a little bit lower time on ground. He's got, a couple of tags, but you'd think he might be the better scorer long term. Who would you be going?
Gee, that's really tough. I like the other trades. I think they're good to get in Rouston and Marshall. It's Sarong on form, isn't it? And run with Bombers and Saints. But, I am a Port man, so... and Wines is out now, so he's out for 1 to 2, I think, with a knee. So someone has to take the minutes. Horner is sore. Does he play more forward again? Probably. So really, it's Butters. Probably a bit more time in there. Bergman, yeah. So look, to be honest, they're both great options. Like, yeah, they're 100 to 105 each. Probably Sarong off the back of the form, but might just check how many tackles did Sarong have, and because I know he has
10.
been 10, yeah. So that is a lot, and it was a wet game as well, right? So, but he does look awesome, 36 and a goal, but obviously he does need to accumulate it to get it. But look, I'll say Sarong, but I think it's hard to split those two. What does everyone else think?
I'm on Butters.
On Butters as well, and I know he went well, and he's been great the last month. He's gone 3 of 4 tons. He's got a couple of 90s in there as well. That 146 only had 2 scores over 120, and I know Butters hasn't had many big scores either. And I guess short term, Sarong for the next 2 weeks is probably the answer. But Sarong does have Essendon this week, which I expect him to go really well against. But then he goes St Kilda, which it's a Windhager tag. Ross Liners normally tag Sarong when it comes to the matchup free on St Kilda. Then they've got Sydney at the SCG. Is that a James Jordan tag potentially there? That has gone to Jordan Clark in the past, but could go to Sarong. Hawthorn, tough to score against. They run something there. Collingwood, West Coaster will be fine. He obviously loves playing West Coast as well. Then Carlton, Port, Brisbane, and Bulldogs to finish. So it's not a great run, whereas Butters, after these next 2 weeks, the run opens up for pretty much the remainder of the year. So I think on Butters.
I don't think we need to be worried about Carlton, right? Like, Chincotta is post-stoppage tag at best. He does not go into CBAs, right? He's not gone into CBAs this year, not since they've committed to Chera Cripps and Hewitt full-time inside mids. And they're still rolling small forwards through. Last weekend, he tagged and ran with Liam Baker, which I actually think is an inspired choice because Liam Baker, player ratings-wise and impact-wise, was in red-hot form. If anything, I think Chincotta goes to Rosie in a couple of weeks. Sydney, I think we can all admit that outside of Lockie Neal, who's been hugely impacted by James Jordan this year? tag-wise?
Yeah, not many. I mean, we saw what Nick Dacos did in the other round. He completely got off the leash, and Jordan hasn't really shut many people down. I think Dawson.
It might be Rowbottom.
As well, but...
Might be Rowbottom they use anyway. They put him on Prestier, stopped him dead in his tracks the other week.
I think Rowbottom is the player more likely to do the physical run with role. But I think that for someone like Butters, he is a, zip, try and change direction, explode forward, foot speed style of midfielder that probably doesn't feel the massive impact that comes from someone like Rowbottom, or similarly, we've kind of seen it with Viney try and play that role. And I just don't think it has quite the same impact that I think Oisin Mullen's the player that we should be most concerned about. He's got the tank and the complete willingness to give up everything else in his footballing arsenal just to run with a player. So I'm personally leaning Butters because I just feel like he's just going to be far closer to that 105, 110 player. I think last year Sarong wasn't copying nearly as much attention as he was this year. And would he average 103, 104?
Yeah.
By the end of the season, and wasn't much of a ceiling scorer. And this year, when he's not tagged, he's had really high player ratings. He's got coaches' votes. He's been that kind of impact this year. So I'm leaning towards Butters because I feel like he's a far easier player to tag and a far more likely tag option because we've seen how much he's just destroyed opponents this year when he hasn't got it.
Yeah. The other thing as well, Butters, he scored a 114 against Sydney earlier this year, and that was at the SCG, just at Adelaide Oval. So probably going to be a little bit better there. So, yeah, I'm Butters there as well. And, Tim, we like those trades. Tim actually did put another super chat in, and Jordox, he's telling you, he's like, I won't be getting Mills Jordox. I'm saving cash for Stuart after the buy. Well, Tim, mate, you're flying, so you can probably tell us whatever trade you're doing, and they're probably going to be pretty good because you're going along very nicely, mate. But Stuart, I don't know.
Stuart off?
I don't know if I'll tick Stuart off. He's 800k now.
Wait for that round 20 round 20 rest, and then the round 23 tactical sub at halfway through the third quarter, and you'll be spewing.
Yeah, exactly. And Tim, I know you're up the top near as well, so I wouldn't be doing Stuart. That could ruin a lot of things. I'd be
more inclined to get Jack Martin, to be honest.
Well, I jumped on him in RDT, so I'm pretty happy with that one. Kent Hodder's got a super chat here. Thank you, mate. Evening, gents. Love your work. Thank you. Trying to hold top 1K. Cash is very good. Garcia, Stone, and Newcomb to Butters, Sam Darcy, and a rookie, or Brayshaw, Mills, and a rookie. So, Jordox, where are you going? Butters, Darcy, and a rookie? Or Butters and Darcy, or Brayshaw and Mills?
Brayshaw and Mills. I mean, I like the Darcy move, but I just think there's enough options in our forward line that you don't have to take a punt on a key forward who looks unbelievable. Don't get me wrong, but I don't know about that. But yeah, Brayshaw, Mills, and a rookie, beautiful.
Yeah, I'm Brayshaw and Mills as well, and I'm sure that Sam Darcy's been getting a bit of chat in the Finders Keepers pod, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm an owner in my keeper league too, so almost the highlight of my weekend, if I'm honest.
Yeah, no, he's going along very nicely. What an absolute gun Sam Darcy is. We have another super chat as well from Matt D. Thank you, mate. He just cracked inside the top 100. There you go, and he's fourth in Lord of the Buys as well. So going along very nicely there, mate. You got the duo there. He's going Will Ashcroft to. Well, we have to ask Jordy about this one. Anything involving the unicorn, we got to ask Jordy about this. So Will Ashcroft to Luke Jackson against Essendon this week. Brock to a 230k rookie, and Hardiman to McKercher holding Gawn, or go Gawn to Marshall or Grundy. Ashcroft to Josh Dacos, and Hardiman to McKercher.
I like the first move. So I'm holding Gawn, and I see a name there that's got Jackson. So I'm a big fan of Jackson. And Liam's the Essendon man, but they've come out and said they're going to rest Goldie. So he comes up against Vicentini. Like, that is a unreal matchup. I know Sean Darcy is there, but Luke Jackson's the number one ruck now, and he's playing a mid-role when he's resting. And I think last week he did have a little bit of forward time, but he's definitely the main ruck. And I don't see that changing with what Freo need to do. So I really like that as a move. And I think Jackson can go close to 100 as a forward.
Yeah,
I'm fully on board with it. I think that I would not be shocked with how early Essendon has named up Vigo to see Sean Darcy rest on the team sheet this week, coming off a short break on the Thursday night game.
Yeah,
I think he's looked better last week than he did against Gold Coast. And I think that I've mentioned it before, but I think that the emergence of Patrick Voss, sad for Bombers fans again, but I think that he has facilitated a structure that gives Longmuir complete freedom on where to play Jackson, because, he can be great forward, he can be great in the midfield, but he doesn't need to play forward in order for Freo structure to work. And I think that's what's really liberated him to be that 95 to 100 scorer this year.
Yeah. What do they call him, Jordy?
Where's the game?
The unicorn, mate.
Where's the game?
I'm hoping Bales.
Over at Optus.
Yeah. I don't know if they'll rest him because he's just had the bye. I reckon they need to get some continuity into Darcy. If he's going to, if they're going to get to finals and he's going to be there, he needs to play. I almost sort of think a little bit of the opposite. It might be an opportunity to give Darcy more of a run just against the young fella. But I don't think it matters where Jackson plays. If it's less ruck time, I still think he'll go close to a ton against the Bombers. So, yeah, I'm in agreement.
Yeah. Jordy, what were you going to say something there as well?
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure I've got you on board, the unicorn Bales, hopefully. I've got Liam on board.
He's
to try and get
Jordox
on
double
board.
unicorns this week.
Yep. He's in my trade plans, that's for sure. The only thing I'd say, Matt, with those trades is I don't know if I do Brock to a 230k rookie, because I don't think there's a 230k guy that just jumps out. I'd try and get in a slightly better rookie, and if that's trading a different rookie like an Angus Clark a little bit earlier or something like that, I think I'd be happy to do that. But yeah, I'm not sure if there's any 230k rooks that are debuting that you're like, yep, I want to jump into that. So, but I guess we'll see teams. He's a Ruck, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's a Ruck utility spot, nice and early in the weekend. That's how we.
Mine's already full.
Lockout game.
Mine's full because I got Madden last week.
Unbelievable. Let's keep going through some more questions. If you guys, again, just because we got a lot of questions coming through once again, appreciate everyone that's putting in all these questions. Chuck it at the bottom of the chat and we'll keep answering them from the bottom. So James Bland Jordox is saying, which premium under 970k would you be looking at? Doesn't matter what position. So actually, we'll go around here and someone name a player that they like under that price. And Josh, we'll start with you.
All right. 970. I wish you could. Oh, yeah, it is. I'm just looking. 970.
Whilst you're looking, I will say what's hilarious is that there's a massive gap in prices. We go Will Setterfield 969, Finn Callahan 964, and then the next most expensive player is 20k cheaper with Josh Dacos. There's like this random gap in the 900ks.
I'll go then because just quickly because you said Liam just said the guy under 970k. I'm pretty big on Josh Dacos this week. His run for the next 6 is just fantastic. St Kilda this week, I think it's a great run. 938ks look fantastic as well. Last month they're giving him the ball more in terms of those chip marks. I think they'll be on offer in some of these matchups coming up. He's taken a few more kick-ins. He's had kick-ins all year, right? But he's been getting a couple more extra. So I just think I'm looking at him heavily this week.
Do we think that Maynard back may just rob him of a few extra points? And I still think that Dan Houston has extra scoring potential there.
Yeah, potentially. I think that's a flag. I just think they love getting the ball in his hands. I think that he's going to maybe...
He just finds it, doesn't he?
When you say they love, do you mean Nick? Because Nick gets the ball back from Josh all the time. And like that
Yeah, Nick
appears
as well,
to be
yeah.
the game plan.
Yeah.
Um,
I just think the run as well helps. So even if he loses a few points, I think those points will be maybe a few added back with the good matchups. I don't know if he's going to be the top 6. Like I don't think he's at the Nasai, Sheasel, Whitfield areas, but I think he's around that number 6, maybe number 7 or 8 defender. So I do like the look of him. Jordox, who are you going to go with?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably like guys a little lower than, you got the Bergman and the Mills and then those guys. But if you're looking, around that 900 mark, Jack McRae looked okay. I reckon he'll be better for the run at 921. Luke Jackson at 928 is probably who Jordy's going to say. But I don't mind the look of George Hewitt. I mean, started the year with 7 tons in a row, if we can remember that far back. Now Walsh is out. The last 2 weeks he's looked a lot more like the start of the year, and he's in the low 900s, so I wouldn't mind a crack at him if you're looking for a mid.
Yeah. Jordy?
Yeah, I'll go Jackson. Also like Butters there, 921k. That'd be my 2 picks. I really wanted Butters last week actually, but I ended up paying up and get Kennedy in, which just helps with forwards and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So I like Butters, yeah. I think, I'll go one of those. Yep. If you can get Jackson as a forward, I think that's a really good pick.
Yep.
There is also
Liam?
a case to be made for, and he probably suffers a little bit that Hewitt's got that Walsh missing, but I think Matt Rowell is a shout, or at least a consideration. Just based on his current form, he looks like he's actually marking the ball a little bit more now. But I think Butters would be my number 1 target in that group. He'd be far higher up my trade priorities if it weren't for the fact that I have Levi that I need to get rid of. And I am actively considering getting rid of Isaac Rankine as well. So I'm looking in the forward markets predominantly. But if you're capable of getting a midfielder, I think Butters is the target.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Rankine there. Ken Hodder, another super chat. Thank you, mate. Is saying if you have to trade one, Rankine or Petracca, I'll answer this one. Unfortunately, it pains me to say it, it's Rankine out of the 2. Petracca, he's had a very tough 6-7 weeks in terms of matchups. He's only had the 1 ton, but his run looks pretty good post-buy. And I think Petracca I think he's safer. And Nix has come out and said that they're not going to be just burning out Rankine in the midfield for they're going to try and they'll give him in their spurts, but he's not going to be that 60%, 70% CBA guy that he was at the start of the year. It's tough because he's got Richmond post-buy and then Melbourne, which is a pretty good couple of matchups. But to be fair, the thing I'm thinking even now is Richmond a game where they maybe sub him out in the 3rd quarter? Like they Crows have done it before, so is that a game where I know they've just come off? They're going to come off a bye.
Yeah, not off a bye, surely. God, that pissed me off. I'm really interested to see Rankine post bye. My theory is that he's tired. It's his first year as a permanent mid. Really, he did it last year, but he missed so much. I'm quite bullish on what he can do post bye myself. But I guess, if you have to trade one, Kent, it would be hard to advise trading Petracca over Rankine, but geez, I just wouldn't be surprised if that ended up being the wrong call.
Yeah. I feel like Rankine's the guy I don't think he's going to burn us because he doesn't have that 130, 140 ceiling. I think he's had one score of 120 this year, and I think it was bang on 120. I don't think he's going to kill you if you trade him out. Maybe the Richmond game might go okay, but we have seen Petracca before has gone on a run. Probably don't think in his Melbourne team he's going to, but he could. But I think I'm trading Rankine, unfortunately, out of those guys. Sean Wennell has got the next question. Jordy's asking Hardiman to McKercher, Lindsay to Johnson, and Noble to Josh Dacos.
That seems pretty good, pretty spot on. He's got to get Johnson. What was the first rookie again? Sorry, it was a good one.
Hardiman to McKercher.
Oh yeah, elite. Yep. No, that's good. They're great. They're great trades. Yep.
Yeah.
Tick that off
Actually,
big time.
Jordy, I want to ask you this. Actually, just McKercher sort of sprung this to mind. A few people asking, like, sort of, you got Bergman at just over 800k. You got Callum Mills mid 700s, and you got Colby McKercher. How would you rank those 3 in terms of trade ins?
Yep. I'd rank Bergman number one. I think, he's had 2 tons. He's got the role. He's having about, 50% CBAs. Wines is out now. He looks great. We're trying to get his trade value up. I think he's number one. Number 2, I'd have McKercher because we saw him back there. Obviously, it was a little bit wet on the weekend, so it wasn't the best game for him, but we know that that's the role. And the only reason I've got Mills as the 3 is I'm just unsure he's going to play this week. He was defense against Richmond. That was with Roberts out. Goulden's back this week. I think
Papley as well, maybe.
Papley. I think Dean Cox wants to play him in the midfield, and I would love that to happen. But I feel like I can. If you're choosing, I think you can wait one more week, and if you need to get one of these guys, but I still think Mills is a good pick. I just have him 3rd.
Yeah, I've probably got McKercher 1 just for the value because I just think McKercher's got this role and he's looking great. But I obviously jumped on Berman a couple of weeks ago and I've been pretty happy with him, even though I remember the watch on against Giants, I wasn't too happy for a lot of the game just because his role was changing around. But he looked great. And he's getting a lot of talk on some of the shows I heard on SEN today, Jared Waitley and Nathan Buckley talking about how well Berman's playing in the midfield. So I think the fact that he's getting some more chat with that now, I think is only a positive. We've got another couple of super chats here. So Tim Ashworth asking anyone other besides Butters or Sarong in the midfield. I think we gave, obviously Liam said Matt Rao was a name before. Jordox said George Hewitt. I think there's a couple of guys. I also don't mind, again, like a Josh Dacos or someone like that, putting Shees or Holmes into the mids. Like I think we've seen with these halfback guys, they're getting it done, and they're the ones that are averaging a lot more. I think it's only Jordan Dawson's averaging more than those defenders. Then you've got a few of those other guys. Brayshaw's there as well, but a lot of the mids are sub 105 this year, whereas there's a few defenders over 105. So we've got a couple of names there, Tim, you could go towards. Elliot650, thank you for the super chat, mate. I think is that euros or pounds or something like that, I think. One or two. But he's any recommendations on any forwards under 500k, trying to trade at Cleary and or Lohman, or do I add Madden despite the buy? Liam, where would you be going here? If any forwards under 500k you like look of?
If you don't need them this week, it's Tyrell Dewar.
Yeah, they look pretty good.
But in terms
Sam
of
Butler?
this week, that Hawthorn,
This is
I don't know how much I love his spot in the team, and he's also missing this week.
Yeah. I tell you what, this is a brilliant question, Elliot 650, because I am looking for the exact same thing. If I can find a forward under 500 that I'm happy with, I can do the other 2 moves. And I'll be honest, fellas, and maybe you guys need to sit me down and talk some sense into me, but Jack Martin had a pretty nice role in the weekend, 2 weeks in a row, actually. And he's 474k. Jack Martin, discuss.
He's got to buy, unfortunately. I know it's different for the mid-price stuff. I don't know. 474 is a bit expensive for my liking. I'm actually looking at, because I've got to get a rookie in the forward line. Obviously Archer May's one. I'm not expecting massive scores, but Will Hayes, someone I'm looking at with Schultz out. He seems to have that forward role for the time being, and I think Schultz is still out for about a month or so. So I'm looking there potentially. That's another option. Jordy, any forwards you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean it's hard, isn't it? It's really dire there.
Tyler is another one debuting potentially this week.
I like Liam's recommendation. I might even get him next week because he's going to make a lot of cash. And he could cover, your Baz and your Martin. But if you're going to need that, if you need that number this week, Jordox, and Martin's playing, I think, Will Hayes is probably one that I have to go to maybe because he's got mid forward and he's just going to have that flexibility where I can just flick him because I've got Rankine in my midfield at the moment. So by having him, next week, I can just sort of flick him around. Not really sure on Archer May, or there's a McMahon, 230k. We're chatting today about him potentially, but I'm not sure of the scoring power of these guys.
I think
I'm
McMahon kicked 3 goals in the VFL in a game and scored kicked 4 or whatever, but he only scored 30-something points. So it was pretty much kicks and goals. That was about it.
And can we just throw away? Is it too early to throw away a position? A 230k McMahon maybe comes in and plays later on. I don't know. I think I'm going to be going to Hayes, but he is 280k, so it's not.
So, Bales, talk to me if Jack Martin didn't have the bye next week. But what's your feel on the move?
It definitely would be an option. I think Liam obviously with Dewar there. I think I'd probably go Dewar because he's slightly cheaper and he's got minus 15 break even if I'm not mistaken, and he's got a half back role alongside McCarthy. So if those two guys are back there, then I think that Dewar can keep scoring well. And if he's a guy that if you I'm considering keeping a Loman, Johnson, Loop at M8. If you could even have Dewar as one of those mids as well, maybe loop in between McCarthy defense, Dewar in the midfield because he's got forward mid maybe. You might be able to loop. So I'm probably Dewar, but Jack Martin's look pretty good in that role. But I know that Geelong have got, I don't know if they've got any defenders coming, but I think Colin Jasney's out for a while and De Koning's out for a while. So I think he's probably got that role locked in for a bit. Just the bye. Just the bye is probably the sticking point for me. I'll just get Dewar next week, but if he didn't have the bye, I think it could have been an option for sure.
Can we consider Orazio? Sorry, I've got another name. Orazio Fantasia.
He looked all right, didn't he?
I heard Sam, shout out to Sam from Pod chatting about that on the Pod today. I don't know if I could go for Fantasia, to be honest.
They got the rose. How could you trust it? But he did look good, actually. He did look good.
He's gone 70.
He looked
71
okay.
last week.
And they've lost Mackay for a month. Curno's a TBC, or is he a test for this week?
Yeah, he'll get up.
I would not be shocked if he gets 3 games, which for a bloke who, let's say, you can average 50, he's priced at 35 or 36 at the moment, break even of 20. Look, it's not a great option. If you absolutely need someone to play this week, maybe that's where you lean. I just don't think this is the week where we're really suffering for fielding 18 solid scorers. So if you can do it, I think Dewar is where I'd lean.
Will Bite's got a super chat. Thank you, mate. And he's got the question there with the super chat. He's so Jordy's asking Hardiman to Rouston, Merritt to Nasiah, and Rank to Horn Francis or Sam Darcy. Thoughts are I'm really heavy on the round 16 buy. So they're aggressive trades, but if you're heavy on the buy, could you tick moves like this off?
Yeah, I mean, I like the trade-ins. I like Rouston. I'm looking at bringing him in. I would just say if you're sidewaysing a primo, just make sure you just look at your team out of the buys and just make sure that you have got 22, 80 plus scorers. Because if you're going to do this sort of sideways, which is fine, and I have done a few sideways over the buys, just make sure what your plan is next week and just make sure you've not got, you're not sort of stuck coming out of that. Because, coming out of the buy, if you haven't got, a strong side, I think that's where a lot of points will go missing. But if you're heavy on it, I think, and you've set up well, then I think you can definitely do it.
Yeah, awesome advice.
Well,
can we ask? I was just going to say, can we ask Liam about Merritt? I would like to hear, as an Essendon man, his thoughts on Merritt, because Merritt was back in the middle on the weekend, which was a bit of a surprise to me. Where's he at, Liam? Is he going to bounce back and finish the year well, like he often does?
I think he'll bounce back and finish the year well, obviously. So I must preface this. I did not watch really any of this game on the weekend. I had my local footy match starting at 4:45 on Saturday in 6 degrees.
Don't think you missed much as a Bombers fan.
I was saying before the game, I'm being safe from myself. Otherwise, I would have gone to the G and been disappointed. I personally am not shocked to see him back in the midfield. I think there was enough chatter and just enough of an objective view that Merritt playing full time for a quarter out of the goal square isn't the best use of his talents. when we are often struggling for quality entries inside 50, I expect him to stay in the midfield for the rest of the season. And I think you should take some solace in the fact that Shield and Sardis were both not named last week in spite of the injuries to the rest of our team. And I think that's the correct call from Brad Scott. And that's a more subjective opinion from, my position as an Essendon fan. But I'm personally I'm relieved to see that choice was made. I would have liked a bigger score, but I also understand the call from Chris to send Oisin Mullen to him, given that we don't have, there is a bit of a step down to our next most impactful player.
Caldwell's getting up there, or Martin.
Caldwell is definitely getting up there as a fantasy scorer, but Nick Martin's a star.
If it wasn't for
the All-Australian squad.
Yeah, if it wasn't for the bye next week, I'd be bringing Caldwell in this week. I love Caldwell's pick. I think he's going to continue to go well. I said Sunday night, I think he's closer to a top 4 mid Caldwell than sort of towards the bottom 8.
He's looking good. But just caution for that last question. Just be aware of that if you're trading Merritt out.
Yeah, he does, and Merritt does have Gold Coast then Richmond post bye as well. So we know what he did against Richmond in that game, and Gold Coast is also a pretty nice matchup. So something to be watching for sure. Sean's got this question: trading Oliver and Stone for both trades, would you go Dale and Ralston, Jordy, with McCarthy, the only rook on field next week and 200k in the bank, or Mills and McKercher with no rooks on field? So before you ask Sean's individual question, I want to get your thoughts on the potentially M8 loop of Zach Johnson and Tom McCarthy moving forward, and that sort of in turn answers Sean's question there. So Jordy, what would you be doing with those?
Yeah, I think I like the looping option coming in as we, sort of probably need to look at that next week. McCarthy is going to be a really good, 18th maybe, or even the 19th if he can next week. Bales, you able to bring the trade up again on the screen? That would be awesome. Yep. So yeah, I think Dale is a good pick. He's probably a bit pricey, but he does have a wicked matchup. So I think if you need to go there, yes, I know you were looking at him, Bales, and you've sort of dropped down to someone a bit more value. But if he comes out and can do a big score, I think he's going to pay you back. Ralston, I think, is a good pick as well. So I think I would prefer those two over Mills and McKercher. And yeah, I think you can run McCarthy next week on field with 200k in the bank, because if he's your 18th and he's had 10 kickouts, I think he's going to be fine for that. And I think, that's something I want to deep dive into the next few days, is looking at my rookies and how can I loop those two. And have I got I'd have to have a dead rook in the midfield or a dead rook in defence to be able to do that, and looking at fixtures as well. So, I've got Bustlinger and Hayes, and I know they've got a lot of Thursdays coming up, but I'm going to have a look and see which one I might need to keep and really do a deep dive so I can start looping, because I think that's probably what we need to start doing post buys. And that probably comes across to every line, even forward line. If we can get a 23rd, you also need a red dot to use as a loop. So that's sort of what I was thinking before that question about the 230k rookie. Could you just throw it now so you can do a loop? That's sort of what I've been thinking about. So yeah, I like the first one.
Well, with the loop that I'm looking at, I think my good friend Angus Hasty's going to become quite important if he doesn't get games, because up until round 22, St Kilda play all Sunday games. So that's obviously helpful if you're looping between the two. The only thing I'd say with Sean's question is I would agree and go probably Dale and Ralston. But if you don't have Bergman, I think you can get McKercher and Bergman, and I'd almost lean that way if you can get Bergman as well. I'm not sure exactly. So can you get there? Mills is what, 763? Yeah, you can get if you don't have Bergman, Sean. But yeah, Len, go ahead.
Yeah, just one word of warning on Johnson. I think he's great. I think comments from Brad Scott this week suggesting that we've got players coming back after the bye and they're not guaranteed to immediately come back in, but I would implore people to just consider the fact that there are a lot of bodies missing across the halfback and in defence for Essendon. That is where he has looked best when he's been scoring well these past 2 weeks. What's he going to look like when the buys are done and we get Reid back, Ridley back, Redmond back? We get Langford, who can still chop out in defence, and I wouldn't be shocked if they experiment with that, given that we've had some okay moments with Caddy and Wright playing as the two tall forwards, and it wasn't necessarily the best output from Langford earlier this year. I loved what I saw from McCarthy, and I think Zach Johnson's a gun, but I don't know where he fits into the 22 in a month, just because of the bodies that we have coming back. So as much as he scored well on the weekend, I would guard against overconfidence that he's someone who'll be able to score consistently at that level.
Yeah, I think it's if we got McCarthy and he puts up another good score, we've probably got more confidence in McCarthy, and you're probably then looping Johnson to see what he does, and then you're likely going to McCarthy. Anyway, but no, good flag with Zach Johnson, because there's looking at the injury report, a lot of 2 to 3 week guys for Essendon that will be back post that bye. Tim Ashworth's got another super chat. Thank you, mate. Jordy's asking, can I wait a week on Butters and get Josh Dacos instead? I'm assuming that's targeting the St Kilda matchup.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Like, they're pretty similar price, like, good matchup. Like, why not? Like, I really want Butters. I won't be able to get him this week because my midfield is full. But he's definitely a target that I want to try and get to post buys. So I think, again, it probably goes back to if you sort of plan, if you can try and plan your trades next week as well, that's what I'm going to do. I'm planning my trades this week and next week, and seeing what my team is. So if you can get Butters next week and Dacos this week, I think it's a good option. Or you could just go Butters, as we talked about. I know Tim sort of was thinking Sarong or Butters, but I think that they're all pretty good options. The thing with this is Butters is probably closer to maybe a top 8 than Dacos is.
Yeah. And that's the exact same question I'm looking at this week. I can get one or the other. And looking at Josh Dacos at the moment. But Zach Butters is definitely someone I've had on my also target list for a few weeks. We've got a couple more questions before we wrap up. Eskimo Brothers 77, Jordox, sitting 66 with 19 premiums playing this week. Do I use this week to bank cash and then launch next week, or go one up, one down and bring in a McKercher type to remove my last rookie from my field?
I reckon that last option, bringing in McKercher and get the last rookie off and get your set coming out of the buys with the full side. It's it's probably the way I do it, not knowing the rest of your side.
I also think there's a case to be made for there's not as many, top 6 blanket, top 8 blanket players coming off by next week that you go, yep, I want to launch into them, versus the options we have coming into round 17. So Ash, Whitfield, Zorko, Caldwell, whatever other bomber mid that you might want. You can have a look at Brian Myers, who's looking incredible at the moment. There's just a whole suite of options. I'd much prefer to be trying to be in a good position coming out of round 16 and launch into some really solid upgrades in 17 as opposed to the alternative.
Yep. Jordy just put in our private chat on here. You didn't mention one name, Liam, one of Jordy's boys.
Sorry,
He's got
Lockie Ash.
He did in
Ash
the
is there.
I did. Sorry, I was
Lockie Ash. We can't forget him. He's one of the key distributors for GWS, who are now actually winning apparently, and Ash can still score well, which is always the concern.
Yeah, Bales loves Ash. He was loving him on the weekend too.
Don't get me started. You're just poking the bear with that one. You just I wouldn't call me a bear. I'm probably more like a pigeon. So you're just poking the pigeon. Kent Hodder has got a super chat here. He says Banfield as a sub 500k forward. I have not looked at Banfield at all. What has Banfield been doing? He's 400.
He was playing off half day.
He's gone
Mm.
86, 42, 65. No, not for me. I think Dewar is still clearly the best one there, with a lot better break, even better roll. Banfield is just, he's vesty for me. I think he could get the best at any point.
Sub-fire, and I think Nod may finally get a look in soon enough. I know I mentioned him maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago on a Hat Chat space, or threw in a comment about it, and he's not played since then, even though he's been fit. I do just think, though, that there's every world where he comes back in and they flick the magnets around.
Yeah. Your boy Zenis, Mills or Josh Dacos? 100k spare with Dacos. I am going Josh Dacos out of those. So I want to see Mills this week. I want to see what role he's got with all those guys come back. And I think next week is the week potentially to get Mills. His break even 63 or 66, 1 to 2. He's not going to get away from you. I'd be looking at him next week. Fast Break Frenzy says Dale or Nasai Lamb. Where are you going out of those two?
What is the cash difference between those two?
So Nasai's 1.07 and Bailey Dale's 1.01. So it's about, 50, 60k between the two?
Look, I think I lean Nasai. We kind of talked about it last week. I think that independent of how St Kilda are going, he's still going to be a funnel for the pill. And I don't know. I feel like I just get a sense that Bailey Dale's regularly scheduled 65 is coming. But I think he's been a little bit too impactful in the last few weeks. And I feel like Western Bulldogs are ripe to get a team that tries to attack him as opposed to Bont as the point of difference to impact the game.
Yeah. Lee Everett saying Loma to Dewar next week. Is that a tick? Yep. That's something I'm looking at next week. It's a bit of a sideways shuffle to get some cash going it there.
Just going back to Bailey Banfield, because I actually don't think it's a terrible idea. He is playing halfback at the moment. He scored 65 in the wet against North. He's got the Bombers and he's got the Saints. So at 468, I actually don't think it's a terrible option under 500. But that's all I'll say.
Yeah. There was one. Oh yeah, Paulie 29. Sheasel. What do we think about him as an option, Jordy?
He has been burning me, Sheasel. So I traded him to Whitfield around the first buy. I thought he's going to play forward, which he is, but he's just doing like a Nick Martin, right? He's just rolling up. He's a gun. He's hurting me hard, but I think you can definitely get him. Look, I might have to bring him back in next week and trade Whitfield back to him. Not sure, but I'm pretty heavy on it. But if I did that, then I'm not going to lose any points overall. But yeah, I don't really want to get rid of Whitfield though. But I think if you can get Sheasel in, definitely do it.
Yeah. Well, if it wasn't for me doing the watch on last week, I was actually going to message you and just say she's to pay you back for.
You should have.
Ashy, but I was doing the watch on. I wasn't thinking about messaging. I was too focused on getting annoyed that they weren't giving McKercher more of the ball in the second quarter.
Do it this week.
Final question we'll go with is from Dylan James, and it is a super chat. So thank you, mate. I'll go to Liam as a guest for the final one here. He's saying Hardiman to Colby and Dunkley to Horn Francis. What are you thinking about those trades?
I think they're pretty solid. I don't know. Like, I know that I'm saying this from the privileged position of already owning JHF, but I think he's attainable in the coming weeks. And I do think there's a very real world that you're not actually gaining many points going Dunkley to JHF, justify the cash that you might make. Would almost consider going to Jackson or Darcy instead. I think that they're both more value than JHF is with these, particularly with the break even he's got at the moment.
I wonder if he needs the money because is that 100k maybe between Jackson and JHF?
I wonder what he's doing with
he's
the third
cheap.
trade. That's obviously the third trade. Would be interesting to see what Dylan's doing. Might be cashing up there or might be doing a sideways shuffle. But if you can see the way anytime anyone mentions Jackson and Jordy's face light up, it's like a ray of sunshine when you see.
I'm going to bring a unicorn plushie next week.
What one that you already own, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to Kmart and get one.
Hey, Dunkley's an interesting point of discussion, isn't he? That's five consecutive weeks of
Getting
a
lower.
decreasing score. Yeah, I reckon jumping off is a pretty reasonable call.
Yeah, I'm still keeping a little bit of an eye just because he's getting very cheap. But yeah, I'm trade especially if you have your on buy as well. I think he's a trade for sure. Beautiful. That will wrap us up there, boys. But as always, before we finish up, we'll go through what our current trade plans are as of Tuesday night. So, Liam, what are you currently thinking about with your 3 trades this week?
Look, I'm currently set on Levi Ashcroft to Sam Darcy. And my other trade, so the other 2 trades, at the moment it's Connor Stone down to Archer May. I might play around with that, see if I can see if anything else 230k wise pops up in the forward line. And then I've got to weigh up trading out Rankine potentially to Jackson as the unicorn. I've also got Isaac Heaney sitting in my midfield, who I expect to be about 100, but I just wonder if there's some value elsewhere that I might be able to jump on. So I'm not set on that third one, but I'm obviously keen to get rid of Levi. It was the right decision in the end to hold this past week because of who I was able to get in, and I was able to get off Hardiman after only 1 week and bring in Colby. So in the long run, I think I made the right call, but he must go this week.
Yeah, I think that Heaney might cop some attention from Bergman this week. I reckon that's the matchup that Port might go for there. Jordy,
sure.
What are you looking at doing?
Yeah, so I'm going to get rid of probably 2 rookies, a Cleary to probably a Will Hayes, and maybe a Boxall to Ralston. Or I've also got Corey Warner there. I might flick him for Ralston. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do, and that will give me enough money to go Loman up to a forward. Looking at Horn Francis, looking at Sam Darcy as well, looking at a few others there. So I've got about 850k, I think. So not sure yet, but I think, I might do a little bit of a rookie fix. I think I'll have 20 this week. So I think I'm happy with that, and I think I'll hold Gawn at this stage.
Just before we go to Jordan's trades, Andrew Griffiths, who I know is a Richmond fan, because obviously them you just asking about it, was saying that he reckons Algier will potentially make a debut for Richmond this week. 230k forward, kicks 3 goals, 2 from 16 touch in his last game in the VFL, and that was mentioned in the Richmond injury report that he might come in. So I think if he comes in, he's probably going to be a pretty highly traded in player because he might get some games. Jordox, what are you looking to do with your trades?
So at the moment, I reckon Sam Berry down to Ralston, Levi Ashcroft down to, Jack Martin, Bailey Banfield, one of those 2, maybe Duar, or maybe this Richmond boy. But then that's just enough cash to go Lewis Hayes up to Mills, which I like at the minute.
Getting a red dot to Mills, I think, sir. A good trade. And anyone listening as well, the LG obviously thing isn't confirmed, but it is something that could definitely be in consideration. My trades, Hardiman will be going to a forward rookie. I need one in because I've only got Kyle Loam as my only forward rook. That was trading Connor Stone out a couple weeks ago, which I knew I'd have to fix up. So LG would be the one that I'd go to if he got named. I've got Lewis Hayes at the moment. But yeah, the other 2 trades I'm sort of tossing up. Do I trade Rankine? I'm looking at Jordy's boy, Luke Jackson, potentially as a sideways shuffle there. And then, I'm looking at going, who was the one there? Looking at maybe like a Shea Bolton potentially out this week, and going to a Zach Butters or a Josh Dacos are probably the 2 I'm looking at there. I'd love Matt Kennedy, but in my situation with not a heap of team value, I just can't justify paying up for Matt Kennedy, which is unfortunate because I think he's a very good pickup there. So, yeah, a couple of things there. Or I might even just do another rookie shuffle, go to Boxer to Ralston and just go like a Bolton or a rookie if I can get them up to someone. That might be what I'll look at doing. So a couple of options there. But we will be discussing our trades again on Friday. So a pre-lockout chat, as always, live 6 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Perth time, answering heap more of your questions there as well. But if you do want a guaranteed answer in the meantime, you can head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Team reviews for every patron member. You get 1 per week through the Ask Me On Q service. So if you'd like to do that, exclusive Patreon Q&A will be again tomorrow night. We're recording that. So if you want to get in on that and help support us a little bit extra at the AFL Fantasy Fanatics, and you can head to our Patreon. Link is in the description of the video or the podcast. But Liam, mate, thank you very much for jumping on the late call up, mate. Thank you very much for jumping on. Where can the people find you across the socials?
Look, always a pleasure, Bales. I've always got some footy and some fantasy thoughts cracking around in the brain. You can find me on Twitter at Liam AFLW Fantasy, and you'll probably hear more from AFLW Fantasy related stuff on the Free Kick account. So Free Kick W Pod, getting very close, I reckon, to the platform launching, hopefully in the next 2 to 3.
Yeah, I cannot wait. Cannot wait. Looking forward to that. That's for sure. Jordy, mate, where can the people find you?
Just Jordan DeSena on X. I did see a comment. It said, Bales, are you coming to my gig Sunday?
You got a gig on Sunday. There you go.
There you go.
I guess,
but soon you'll come. Yeah, you'll come soon.
Yeah, I guess we'll see. Well, I haven't honestly thought that far ahead, but if I'm not doing anything, yeah, definitely a potential shout. I might be able to head on down to see Jordy play. Not the first time I've seen Jordy play. Good. Heard him at Gather Round, which very, very good. If you get a chance, if you're in Adelaide, to go watch Jordy play, or in Brisbane, I think you're doing a gig up in Brisbane. I think in a few weeks.
July 11, yeah.
Yeah, or if you're traveling on the Indian Pacific train over the next 6 months, you might have Jordy playing music for you. So.
If you think this guy is good at fantasy, you wait till you hear him sing. That's all I'll say on that.
Yeah,
it's very nice.
Jordox, where can the people find you, Finders, Keepers, and the subs account?
Yep, I'm on X at Jordox 2020. Finders Keepers, the Keeper League podcast that I started up this year. Just had the 20th episode came out today, which I was quite proud of. 20 times I've got one out, so it's good. At Find Keep AFL is where you can find Finders Keepers, and of course at AFL Subs on X is the page you need to be following if you want the subs and late changes sent directly to your device and with little to no effort from yourself. So it just buzzes away and you've got it. That's it. Go on, play.
There you go. No, get around it. Get around all the stuff there that Jordox is doing. You can find me at BAILSDT, and you can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans across the socials. I think Damon was asking AFLW content coming soon. Well, obviously Liam said they've got their stuff very, very soon. We'll probably be doing a few things later on, closer to the season launching, probably maybe a month out. So yeah, stay tuned for that as well. But yeah, as I said before, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, we're very close to 4K. We are 48 away, so make sure you subscribe, like the video, and if you are on the pod, listening on the pod, 5-star rating and review would be very, very much appreciated. And we'll catch you guys on Friday for our pre-lockout chat. So thanks everyone. We'll catch you then. See ya.
See ya.